My mom taught me to sell at a spaza shop. She ran a hair salon. I pretty much learned entrepreneurship from my moms.
Umntu ngumntu ngabantu. That on your own, you can't really do it. You need the support of those around you.
You will have a network of people, a network of communities, and a society that will make sure that you count.
Good evening and welcome. It is the 9th of September, Thursday evening, and just after 7, and that means, again, it is time for SAITA StraightTalk. Tonight, I want to just remind you again who SAITA is. SAITA is the South African Informal Traders Alliance, the official voice of the informal sector. And in the SAITA StraightTalk series, we talk about issues and celebrate the issues that need to be celebrated that are pertinent to the informal sector. Now, tonight, we're actually going a little bit wider than just the informal sector, because tonight's topic is going to be one that affects every family in South Africa, in fact, in the world. But before we get to telling you exactly what we're going to be talking about, I want to introduce our panelists this evening. From Johannesburg, I'd like to introduce you to Advocate Ntabiseng Sipanya Mogale from the Oxford Chambers in Sandton, Johannesburg. Good evening, Advocate Ntabiseng.
Good evening, Louise. Good evening to the listeners.
And then we also have Paul Bester, our National Director of SAITA Membership. Paul, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Good evening.
Good evening, Louise. Good evening, Advocate, and good evening to everybody listening in. Thank you for having us.
So you might be wondering, why an advocate this evening? You know what? Because there's a little bit of legal stuff that we need to talk about tonight. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't think in my lifetime I have been forced to be dealing with death as often as we've had to over the last 18 months. And with death comes a very serious conversation. And that means, what happens to my stuff when I die? And a lot of us don't think about it. We don't think about who must get what. And we know that lots of families have broken up because of that discussion after somebody has passed on. Advocate Ntabiseng, I want to start off by asking you a very, very simple definition for us tonight. What is a will?
Thank you. A will is a very, very important document that gives the owner of property absolute right to decide on what happens to their property in the case of their death. So it is a very powerful document in this. You and only you have a right to draw it up, the owner of the property, but also you have an absolute right on how to decide what to give to who that is of your property.
So how difficult or how easy is it to draw up this document? Because, I mean, there are just so many people and so many families that you hear of all the time that passes on, or you see people no longer speaking to each other, and you ask, hey, what happened? And you say, no, there's an argument about a house or a car, or so help me understand, how easy is it to put something like that together?
Unfortunately, it is very, very easy. Contrary to popular belief, it is. You write the key things in the will, you do certain formalities, which we will get to, you put it somewhere, and it reflects your wishes in the case of your death. But what normally happens is, because of the misunderstanding around how to distribute one's property, that is why a lot of people freeze and don't do anything. People still believe, I've got sons, maybe it's only the sons that I must give. Or I've got one son, is the middle son, is not the eldest. So I can't give because they are the middle. I cannot give to my daughter who is now married to somebody because I'll be giving to my son-in-law, or I cannot have boys all together. So I will be giving all of these things to other families and not. Whereas, those things can actually be attended to, that you give your children and it stays outside of the married relationship. So it's more of a lack of understanding, more than actually it being difficult. It's also easy in the sense that all the banks do draw up wills for free. The people who are expensive are lawyers. But banks, each and every bank that you bank with, can do a will for you for free. Why it is for free is because they know they will recover the money. In the case of your death, when they start wrapping up your estate, they will recover the money there that they used for the administration. And the last thing that makes a will easy is that nobody by law, including your witnesses, have to know what is inside the will, and nobody by law who is going to benefit from the will has to know beforehand. So it's total secrecy. You just have to follow certain formalities. It's your property. You decide how, and nobody can fault you for that.
Okay, that's very, very, very interesting. Paul, I want to bring you into the conversation here, just from a membership point of view, because I mean, I was speaking to Ntabi Singh off air just before we went live, and we spoke about the amount of people that SAITA serves, that we're really endeavoring to be one sector with one voice. So don't you just want to come into the conversation here, please?
Good evening, Louise. Thank you. Just this afternoon, I'm not thinking of your topic, but just this afternoon, I had a conversation with one of the members that phoned me, and we talked about the pauper burial. Somebody that has not got a will, who has not got any money when he or she passes away. And I think passing away and I'm saying this with all respect, but I think passing away nowadays is one of the most expensive actions that one as a human being can do. Is when you die, it costs you a lot of money, really a lot. And even if you don't have a will or you don't have money, somebody else must foot that bill. And if you don't have a will, everything goes to the state until there's letters of demand and the family that must give. It's so much problems and troubles that goes into that without a will, that this is something that we as SAITA is trying to advocate on a daily basis when speaking to our members. Make sure that you have financial cover, make sure that you have a legal, make sure that you do that, so that when you do pass away, and God forbid we don't hope so, but it happens, that's one of the sureties in life, is somebody will give birth and somebody will die. That's the only two sureties in life. The rest is just one, the road that God put you on. So for us as SAITA, this is very important, and we've just went out and created a portfolio of SAITA members. SAITA members can sign on for that as an individual to find cover, legal cover, financial cover in the way or in the case of death. And this is part of the SAITA membership drive to offer each individual person who is part of the informal sector that cover, peace of mind, funeral cover and legal cover as part of the SAITA, benefits that we do offer for members. So there's a number underneath that you see. SAITA membership is our email. There's a cell number. Please contact us. Ask us about this so that we can give you the forms, so that you at least, when something happens to you and the inevitable happens, that you at least have legal cover that can assist you with the will, as the advocate says, as well as enough money for your legal for your loved ones to give you a dignified burial in the unfortunate event that you pass away. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. Tabi Singh, I wanna come back to you, and I mean, you pardon the pun, you advocate for people having a will. But I want you to give me some real stories of maybe just one story of what could potentially happen if there isn't a will.
I could give 10. usually happens if there is no will is that there is usually a dispute about what goes to who. Especially, I'll put an African perspective to it. African as in, Africans in South Africa.
Yes.
There are people who never get married. There are girls my age and your age who are at home who have never been married. For some reason, they actually think, I've been staying with these parents, I'm entitled. Then there is the big brother, who most probably is married somewhere and just feels, I'm the only boy or I'm the eldest boy. That house belongs to me. We know that is not true anymore. It was eradicated a long time ago. And then you have girls, sometimes even boys, who have children at home and then get swept off their feet by Mr. Right after they've had 2 or 3 kids, and they leave them with the grandparents. And the grandparents sometimes even encourage it. No, I can't stay alone here at home. Leave the children here. Go and make more babies with the new husband now. I'll stay with these ones. Come a time when the parents have passed on, the uncles who rightfully now, that is their home, and the aunties come and they find my 2 children. By that time, one is 26, the other one is 31. And they say, we want our share, we want to sell the house. And you end up with me now wanting to say, this is their home. You've been there in the suburbs, staying at your houses. Now you're coming and interfering with my children. Whereas those uncles rightfully are the heirs and the beneficiaries of that property. You see, I should have sorted my children out instead of leaving them with the grandparents. And there's also now a new tendency, in a sly way, you have people who come in and take care of the aging parent who is left. And then they walk them to the municipality and they change the papers and they want to argue, he gave me the house or she gave me the house. So it's all of these things that once and for all could actually be dealt with. But again, what makes it to be such a problem, there's also the issues in the rural areas where now relatives have got a tendency, they call it culture, I dispute that, of now coming in and say, please take your clothes, take your children and their clothes and get out of our brother's house. Now, it's women who are left stranded with children 3, 4, 5, running around in the courts to try and say, I was the wife, here are the documents, they have said I must leave. And you have this uncle now who says, I'm moving into my brother's house. Again, that is a crime, that is wrong. But if there was a will, those children would be safe. Your wife or your whatever, it would be safe. In most cases, it's the wife, yes.
Now, in South Africa, we run a campaign. I know you said earlier that the banks do it for free anyway. But I just want to allude to September being Free Wills Month. What does that mean? Does it mean that I can go in anywhere that a will can be drawn up and they have to do it for free? Or what? How, can you just direct our viewers?
Yes, Wills Week is usually the second week of September. This year, it will be the week of the 13th to, 13th to the 20th or something like that. Yeah, usually, you find that lawyers take tables and go and put displays and other banners in malls and other places, or even announce on their websites to say you can walk in, we will help you with that, with a will for free. It works in the same way as the lawyers. You don't have to pay for that drawing up of the will, but then they are going to administer it later when you die. They will be the ones who are executing and administering the dissolution of the estate. So they will recover their money from there. So it is an opportunity worth taking advantage of, because then you will know that my will is drawn up by a lawyer. It therefore means it ticks all the boxes, and you just understand that if anything happens, you tell your children, go to lawyer so and so. That is where my will is being kept. Even the banks, I think, do it. Wills Week, I'm not sure, but I know throughout the year the banks do it for their clients.
So you kind of answered something now that I was going to ask you, but I do want to just pose the question again. You said earlier that nobody needs to know the content of my will.
Yes.
But is it important that I tell my family or my friends, if I don't have family, where to find my last will? Is it important that somebody knows?
Absolutely, absolutely important that somebody knows where that will is. But the strength of what the law has done is actually to say, even your witnesses can know that the will is at such and such a place, but don't have to know the content. Trying to deal with the mom gobozis and all the other people of going into your home and say your mother didn't leave you anything, by the way, those kinds of things. We've got those aunties who say, okay, don't think it's me just because I'm a witness, but I just wanted to warn you.
Yes.
But nobody has to know the content, but they can know where to find it should anything happen to you.
So the concept of the witness now, if they don't have to know the content, how do I get them to sign this document?
Exactly as we do when we write exams. I always tell women that do as when you write exams and you don't want your desk mate to copy from you. Take a paper, put on top of all the information that you've written, and you show them where to sign. Why they don't have to know is because if there is a dispute, the court calls the witnesses to say, do you know this and this and this signature? Were you there with these two people? Because one of the rules of a will, the formalities, is that the person who writes the will and the two witnesses have got to sign it at the same time in the presence of each other.
Okay.
And that's the purpose of it. So you can't draw up your will and then go and call this one, please sign, and next week somebody else come. No, it must be all three of you at in the presence of each other at the same time. And that is why only the signatures have got to be verified, because it says, were you there on such and such a day, or do you remember faintly 15 years ago where you were called? Yes, it was me. Yes, it was me with this person who has signed here. I remember very well. We were at number 35, what street? Yes, it was us. Okay. That is all that you authenticate. You do not authenticate the contents.
Okay.
And one of the things that makes it safe, there was a case that was called Kidwell versus Kidwell, where there was about 14 centimeters that was left in the last page of the will, and then they signed at the bottom. So now what happens is you sign every page at the bottom, but the last page, if it does not get to the last line of that page, you sign immediately after the last sentence.
Okay.
So nobody can include a paragraph there. That's number one. But number two, that is why you can only verify the contents. It's taken as it is not interferable, because there's no space that is left. The signatures, all the signatures are there. All the three people can authenticate. And you don't change it just because the one person has passed away. You do not change it just because, whatever. You don't go as a witness and say, oh, the one witness has just, but no. It only becomes an issue if there is a dispute. But the good thing again about a will is, if I am the one disputing the will, I am the one who has to prove that it is fraudulent, it is illegal, the contents, all of those things. The onus is on me. I know very many stories where people say, I know my mother loved me. My mother, I was the Lat Lameki. There was no ways my mother was going to leave me the house. And when you sit down and speak to some of them, they will tell you that Lameki has chowed all my money. I'm sick and tired. I'm going to show her flames, because the Lameki sits there and does not do anything. brings the Oma to the pension and come back and they chow the money together and they think, I'm the favorite.
Yes.
Belongs to me. And people sometimes feel this is not fair, because you'll find that it's the other siblings who even have their own homes, who are busy bringing groceries here, doing this for you, taking you to hospital, etc., etc. So says, if you say you are the Lameki, you are the favorite, the will is wrong. Show, or else the will is correct.
Now, Tabi Singh, I want to bring it closer to home with regards to the informal sector. So every trader is a business owner. So can
Yes.
I include my business in my will?
Yes, you can. Very simply, you include it as a business, like with a name. But if it does not have a name, you can write it in description of the goods to say, I am a trader with a spaza shop in the what. I want so-and-so to take over my spaza shop and or sell it. Some people will say, can dispose of it and take the benefits that come out of it. But you can do it.
Okay,
Yes.
so that is something. So you were saying earlier about in the rural areas, because I'm just thinking, SAITA has a presence across the 9 provinces through all our associations that are aligned to SAITA, and there are banks in most towns. I know in the very, very rural areas there might not be a bank, but can I then, if I'm in the rural area, go to my local leader of the association and say, just sit here, I want to bring my 2 friends, I want to write my will, and then you help me to get it to the nearest bank? How does that work? Is that a legal will also?
Yes, that's the other powerful thing about a will. A will does not, at the time drawn up, does not have to be signed by a lawyer or a bank. But
As you always say, Louis, there's no equality in Wi-Fi, né?
There's no equality. I'm just trying to figure out now whether it's my Wi-Fi or whether it's Tabi Singh's Wi-Fi that's blocking. That's why I don't want to speak in case it's over her. But it seems to me that hers is stuttering.
You are
Am I clear? Okay, so all Wi-Fi.
You are clear. I think
then they write their names in full.
Okay.
Hello?
Okay. Tabi Singh, we've lost a lot of what you've said. Your Wi-Fi is buffering, so we're losing a lot of what you've said, and I really want to hear what you've got to say. While Tabi Singh sorts out her Wi-Fi on that side, Paul, I think maybe we can just reiterate that SAITA as an organization is willing to assist anybody that is looking for a way to draw up their wills and help them get them to the necessary people if need be, especially in the rural areas.
Yeah, Louis, thank you. I think I want to, before I answer you on that, I wanted to latch on what the advocate said about the will, having a will. And we are in September, and 24th of February, 24th of September, National Heritage Day. And I think one of our heritages in South Africa is that we're a caring nation. It doesn't matter what we went through, the Boereoorlog, and we had apartheid, and we had whatever, and we listened to what we see on the Zondo Commission the past 2 years. Yet we are still together and united as a caring nation. And I think this is something that we need to take forward as SAITA. In our caring nationship, if I may use that, if that's even a word, our caring nationship should use this week as free will, as our heritage in South Africa. We can't have one day of a Braai Day. That cannot be our heritage. Our heritage is caring for each other. And I think I want to advocate, and this is more tongue-in-cheek, but I would like to advocate, to go to pass, say, the National World's Week, our heritage, where we care for each other to make sure that when something happens to our friends, family, mother or father, that we know that we are taken care of, that whatever he or she had is taken care of, and that the people that's left behind are not shocked what they find without the will, or the cost that they need to bear without the will. So I think maybe we should change National Heritage Day on the 24th to National Heritage Week, and we call that World Weeks. Yeah, what I wanted to say in your question, Louise, as SAITA, we have a footprint across South Africa. Every little small town has a few of 3, 4, 5 people selling as informal traders in the informal economy, and they are united, and a chairperson. They have chairpersons. We're in contact with most of these chairpersons, and this is my duty doing this daily, to add these chairpersons to SAITA and make them aware of us, know of us. So all I'm asking is, if you have an issue, there's an email underneath scrolling past. And if you know of a family member that have an issue, or you want to ask a question based on the issues tonight, send us an email on that membership@saita.org.za, and we'll link you to the right people, the chairperson, or the society, or to the bank, or to an advocate if that need be, to can assist you with your will, or if there's something that happened. I know the advocate also talked about culture in African culture. There's this culture of stokvel or gooi, where people, old ladies, mamas, put their money together for the end of the year. In the middle of the year, a brother dies. They have to gooi geld and bury the husband or bury the brother, because there wasn't any provision made through the will or through a legal product or a funeral policy. And that hard-earned savings is then used to bury somebody that you might not have spoken to, but because you're the oldest or the onus rests on you to bury this, your gooi geld goes. This is very important for us. It is very, very true. Is that laadlametjies and all the other things that she was talking about has an effect on how people go after their death. A will is that document that will make sure that you take in dignity and make sure that you have a product that can save enough money to bury you in a dignified manner. So contact us on the membership at saita.org.za. Let us set you up. Get you that application form for 49 Rand. We give you a funeral cover. You don't have to take your mother's gooi money. She can have that for the end of the year, and we can give you a dignified funeral. So please take this in consideration. When you have a will, make sure that you have also legal and a funeral product. Thank you, Louise.
Thank you, Paul. And I'll be saying I am so glad to see you back. I often say during my show that all Wi-Fi isn't created equal. So, and I mean, we often see that on the show, because the one minute you're there and the next minute you can never predict it. So, but I'd love for you to please just repeat everything that you said to us that I asked you before, because we missed most of what you were saying.
Okay. The first thing we need to know that anyone with property can actually draw up a will. And a property, it means exactly what you explained, Louise. You could have a house or other goods or a business. Decide who you give it to. And secondly, who you give it to does not necessarily have to be your children or all your children or whatever. It can be anybody. That is why sometimes a lot of rich white people, they leave their money to SPCA, and people collapse and what, they couldn't be bothered, they're gone. But they've decided, I loved cats, I'm giving it to the Association for Cats. So you can give it to anybody. Then the other thing that people tend to confuse sometimes is, if there is a house, you don't have to say, who of my children do I choose to give it to? You can give it to all 4. A title deed does come out with Tabise Mohale, Louise, and everybody. Paul Bester, we're all siblings, we own that house. And that helps, because one day, When Paul is full of nonsense, we buy him out and we stay with property. Then he can go and do his own thing there. So people must know that it's not about who do I choose. It can be all of them equally. Then the other thing, there are certain formalities that have to be done. You've got to have 2 witnesses. Those witnesses, the law says they can be above 14 years of age, but we always encourage people, make it 18 years. I don't know, maybe a few years ago, the 14-year-olds were clever then. I don't know where this 14-year-old is coming from. But make sure that it's 18 and above. Again, the people who are going to benefit from the will, there's nothing wrong in making them witnesses, but we always, again, discourage to say the other siblings are going to say, you see, you are even a witness, and they say the house goes to you. There's something wrong. So go to, for neutral people that you know. The 4th point is those 2 witnesses above the age of 18 must sign that will at the same time in your presence and in the presence of each other. They do not have to know what is in the content of the will. They just have to know, because if there is a dispute, all what the court is going to ask them is to verify their signatures and the signature of the owner of the will. So those are some of the things. Then last but not least, it's important that people, when they divorce, as a belief, within 3 months of your divorce, run to the lawyer, change your will. Die man is weg, ek wil fokkeloor. Change the thing. After 3 months, and something happens to you, the law takes it. You wanted to give this man, that rogue man that you never even wanted to see for the last 8 years of your life. So women must make sure that when they divorce, in their list, after they come from court, they must say, you change my will. And to change your will, you just go and say a new will, same stuff, but with new, maybe with new signatures and 2 other people and all of that.
You've brought up something else that I wanted to ask you about. The one, now that you're talking about relationship, you're referring to divorce specifically, but I want to know, what about couples that have been staying together for a very long time? Let's say they've been together for 18 plus years, and somebody dies. How does the law cover you? I know when you're married in community of property, there's almost an automatic split of the estate to the person who's still alive. But what happens if there's no will, and I spent 18 years with this man to build up into a beautiful place, and there he dies, and we didn't draw up a will? Do I stand to lose everything?
Yes, to some extent, if I answer it crudely, you do stand to lose everything. But civil unions are actually made now, they've been formalized, and there is a protection there in terms of the dissolution of joint property. But it is important that you register that union. And we brought it, Louise, to my other passion, customary marriages. Yes. The Recognition of Customary Marriages Act of 1998 allows people to go and register their customary marriages. After they register the customary marriages, Home Affairs issues them with a certificate. It's called a registration certificate, which is an equivalent to a marriage certificate. And the Act again says the dissolution of your property, should you divorce this customary marriage man or woman, the estate will be devolved in terms of the Divorce Act of 1979. So you are protected. It's like in civil or common law marriage, as it is called. But register. Because we find now a lot of women, because they've not registered, the relatives come and say, we don't know you. You have to go home. They don't have anything to prove. And then they have to run, get the letter from the uncles in 1926. And then who was there? We celebrated. No, we didn't have money. There's stories about all of those things. So now I'm saying to people, register. Even if you know that you're going to have what we call a white wedding in South Africa, go and register the completion of the customary marriage. I'll tell you why. We're seeing now more and more young girls are being sent back home by vicious uncles and aunties because of COVID to say no. You even did not have children. You had not even had children. There was just lobola, what. No, let's cancel this whole thing, go. Whereas if you had registered, you would rightfully be the wife entitled to take half of the property.
So really, the best thing any of us can do, and would you say that even should I write my will the minute I turn 18 years old? What would your recommendation be?
I would say the minute you have property of such a value that you feel if anything happens, I want this work that I have put in, because to accumulate that, it's your work, it's your sweat and blood. I want it to go to people who will appreciate it. That's number one. But number two, every woman, when you have children, that needs to be sorted out. We must always see it as swart gevaar, to say this man will take my money and jump next door to the next girl. We must always be very worried. So every woman who has got children, sort your children out. It does not matter how much in love, how much you trust the man, the children. That's the second thing. But every person who has got parents, because not all of us want our parents home, but let's advise them to say, sort it out. Whether you want to give it to your Latlameki, whether you want to give it to the laziest because he has got no home and you people are sorted, you've got rich husbands, you drive cars, it's fine, it's your property, but write it down somewhere, And about the children who are staying at home with the grandparents, we need to start at dinner tables or when we go for coffees or whatever with our brothers and sisters to say, what are we going to do to those children? They are yours. They are not our siblings. They are yours. What are we going to sort them out? Because those are some of the places where there is friction, where people say, where do you expect my children to go? They grew up here, and the aunties feel bad and there's no rent that's being paid and the house becomes a tavern and all sorts of things, and you become a persona non grata in your own home, all because you are saying, but I have got a share. Give me my share, then let me go. You see?
Yeah. I always knew the importance, or thought I knew the importance of having a will, but I love how real you've made this discussion this evening, and I think this is something that we need to reiterate over and over and over again. And I think also something that Paul is very passionate about is about women and their safety. And I think you've just highlighted this evening that the vulnerability of women is further expanded by not having a will in place, because you almost set yourself 10, 15 years back if you don't look after yourself and you don't look after your children. And we all know that our communities, the cornerstone of our communities are families. So when families are broken, our communities are broken. So I thank you very much for highlighting that again, Tabi Singh. Thank you so much. I'm going to be calling on your number a lot in months to come, because there's a couple of pertinent issues that our informal traders need to be aware of. I mean, and for me, the biggest thing tonight is that your informal trading business could be seen as just an informal trading business, but that's your livelihood. That's your asset. Put it in a will.
Yes.
If that's all we take from tonight, then make sure your kids are sorted out. Ntabi Singh, Sapenya Mohale, thank you so much. I see, Paul, your hand is up. I'm going to give you the last word.
Thank you. It's not that I want the last word, but I wanted to just say this. The advocate was talking about the will. When you are alive and you die and you do your day-to-day job, one of your most pertinent thing is to put something in life that people will remember you by. I think what you do in life is not so much what you do today, but it is what you leave behind. The legacy that you leave behind. Have you enriched every person that you've touched on your daily grind from being a baby until the day that God calls you. And I think let's not make all your hard work on earth undone by not leaving it up with a will and not having a will and not making sure that that legacy that you built, that hard work that you put in, that people remember you by, let's not make done by leaving it undecided or interstate. I think that's the right word. Leaving your property interstate without a will so that somebody else gets the stuff and people maul around it like mole rats for a piece of bread. Let your legacy live when you let your legacy live behind the day that you pass away by a will, so that it's protected for your hard work and that your sweat that you've put in does not go unnoticed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Paul.
you very much, guys. I'm available.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ntabiseng. And that brings us to the end of this evening's SAITA Straight Talk. Next week, Tuesday and Thursday, I promise you some very, very hot topics. Please make sure that you follow SAITA Media on Facebook. Share the video with your friends. Invite them to join us live 7 o'clock every Tuesday and every Thursday evening. This is the show that creates one voice and one sector. From me, Louise, until next week, goodbye.